In a distant corner of the galaxy, humanity had earned its place among the stars. After decades of struggling to prove themselves worthy, humans were finally accepted into the Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced alien civilizations that ruled over interstellar affairs. Despite this achievement, humanity often found itself dismissed as newcomers with little to offer. Their technology was considered outdated, their methods primitive, and their contributions insignificant compared to the wonders brought by other species. The Galactic Council held one of its annual summits near Saturn, aboard a massive flagship belonging to the Zorethians, a proud and influential race known for their sleek ships and disdainful attitudes. As part of the event, representatives from each member species were invited to showcase their latest advancements in science, engineering, and military might. Humanity's contribution. An old, rusted warship called Eclipse that had been decommissioned centuries ago and left floating in orbit around Saturn like a forgotten relic. Captain Daniel Brooks stood silently on the observation deck of the Zorethian flagship, watching as ambassadors from various alien races peered through large windows at the hulking shape of the Eclipse. The ship's once gleaming hull was now covered in dust and micrometeorite scars, its engines silent and cold. To anyone looking at it, the Eclipse seemed more like a museum piece than a functioning vessel. Daniel clenched his fists behind his back, feeling the weight of their mocking stares. He hated how they laughed at it, and by extension, at humanity. Beside him, Lieutenant Laura Hayes observed the scene with quiet frustration. Her sharp green eyes darted between the group of ambassadors and the image of the Eclipse on the monitors. She could hear fragments of their conversation, snippets filled with condescension. "Primitive design," one said. "A floating junkyard," remarked another. Even Ambassador Kale, a tall and imposing figure with shimmering blue skin, joined in the ridicule. "Is this truly your greatest weapon?" he asked loudly, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "It looks like something my children would use as target practice." Daniel wanted to respond, to defend the Eclipse and everything it represented, but he knew better. Arguing would only make things worse. Instead, he glanced at Laura, who gave him a small nod of reassurance. They both understood the unspoken truth. The Eclipse wasn't just a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's past struggles and triumphs. It had fought in wars that saved Earth from extinction, protected colonies during humanity's early days of space exploration, and stood as proof of what humans could achieve when pushed to their limits. As the laughter continued, Daniel felt a flicker of anger ignite within him. These aliens didn't understand what they were mocking. They saw only the surface, the rust, the cracks, the silence, but not the potential hidden beneath. Somewhere deep inside, he wondered if anyone else shared his sentiment. Was there anyone who still believed in the Eclipse? Unbeknownst to the crowd, Chief Engineer Ryan Cole was already aboard the ancient warship, a wiry man with grease-streaked hands and an ever-present toolkit slung over his shoulder. Ryan had volunteered to inspect the Eclipse before the summit began. What he found surprised even him. Beneath layers of neglect and decay, traces of cutting-edge technology remained intact, technology far ahead of its time. If given the chance, Ryan thought, maybe the Eclipse could show these arrogant aliens exactly what humanity was capable of. Back on the flagship, Ambassador Kale turned to face the human delegation, his smirk widening. "Perhaps you should consider upgrading your fleet," he suggested mockingly. "Or perhaps you can demonstrate why we should take this relic seriously." His words hung in the air, heavy with challenge. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Daniel stepped forward, meeting Cal's gaze without flinching. "Very well," he said firmly. "If you doubt our capabilities, then let us prove you wrong. We'll reactivate the Eclipse right here, right now." Gasps rippled through the room, followed by murmurs of disbelief. Most assumed the attempt would fail spectacularly, but Daniel didn't care. This was humanity's chance to rise above the mockery and show the galaxy what they were truly made of. As the council agreed to the demonstration, Daniel signaled for Laura to join him. Together, they prepared to board the Eclipse, knowing full well that the odds were stacked against them. But failure wasn't an option, not when the pride of humanity rested on their shoulders. Little did they know, the journey ahead would test not only their skills, but also their courage and unity. The challenge had been set, and the entire Galactic Council was watching. Captain Daniel Brooks stood at the airlock of the Eclipse, his heart pounding as he prepared to step aboard the ancient warship. Beside him, Lieutenant Laura Hayes adjusted her helmet, her expression calm but resolute. They both knew the enormity of what they were about to attempt, reactivating a ship that hadn't moved in decades while under the scrutinizing eyes of alien dignitaries who expected them to fail. Chief Engineer Ryan Cole was already inside, working tirelessly to assess the Eclipse's condition. His hands moved quickly over control panels coated in dust, his mind racing as he tried to piece together how much of the ship's systems were still functional. "This is going to be messy," he muttered to himself, brushing cobwebs away from a console. Despite the chaos surrounding him, Ryan felt a spark of hope. He had always believed in humanity's ability to adapt and overcome, and this situation was no different. If anyone could bring the Eclipse back to life, it was him. Communications specialist Emily Dawson joined them shortly after, carrying a portable scanner to monitor energy readings. She glanced around the dimly lit corridors, her sharp eyes taking in every detail. The air smelled stale, and the floor creaked under their boots, but Emily refused to let the eerie atmosphere distract her. "We've got company," she said suddenly, pointing to her scanner. "Multiple ships are closing in on our position. Looks like the Council fleet wants a front-row seat to our failure." Daniel nodded grimly. "Let them watch," he replied. "They'll see what we're made of soon enough." Though he sounded confident, doubt lingered in the back of his mind. Reactivating the Eclipse wasn't just about proving a point, it was about restoring humanity's dignity. Every snicker, every sneer from the Council members weighed heavily on him, fueling his determination to succeed. As Ryan dug deeper into the ship's core systems, he uncovered something unexpected. Hidden within the Eclipse's databanks were classified files detailing experimental upgrades developed by Earth's military centuries ago. These upgrades included advanced AI integration, plasma weaponry, and even cloaking technology far ahead of anything currently used by the Council races. Ryan's eyes widened as he realized the potential of what they had stumbled upon. "Guys, you need to see this," he called out, waving the others over. Laura leaned over his shoulder, scanning the information displayed on the cracked screen. This changes everything," she whispered, her voice tinged with awe. The upgrades weren't just theoretical. They were real, waiting to be activated if they could get the ship running again. But Ryan warned them that unlocking these systems came with risks. The Eclipse's power grid was unstable, and activating too many components at once could cause catastrophic damage. Despite the dangers, they pressed forward. Time was slipping away, and the Council fleet was growing impatient. Ambassador Kell's smug face appeared on a nearby monitor, broadcasting live updates to the summit. "Still nothing," he taunted, his tone dripping with mockery. "Perhaps your engineers need more time to figure out which button turns on the lights." Daniel clenched his jaw but didn't respond. Instead, he focused on rallying the team. "We can do this," he said firmly. "Ryan, prioritize the engines. Laura, work on navigation. Emily, keep an eye on those ships. Let me know if they try anything funny." Each member nodded, throwing themselves into their tasks with renewed vigor. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional beep of a console or the hum of machinery springing to life. Slowly but surely, the Eclipse began to stir. Lights flickered across the bridge, casting long shadows along the walls. The hum of dormant systems echoed through the hull, growing louder with each passing minute. Ryan let out a triumphant laugh as the main power core roared to life, bathing the room in a warm glow. But just as hope began to rise, alarms blared throughout the ship. Emily's scanner lit up with warning signals. "We've got problems," she announced, her voice tight with urgency. The Council fleet detected unusual energy readings. Some of them are calling for immediate action. Daniel took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever came next. Stay focused, he told the team. We're not done yet. The eclipse may have awakened, but its true test was only beginning. The eclipse's systems were alive, but the crew knew they weren't out of the woods yet. The ship groaned as power coursed through its ancient circuits, and flickering lights revealed the layers of decay that had settled over decades of neglect. Dust floated in the air, illuminated by the dim glow of reactivated panels. Despite the chaos, there was a sense of triumph among the team. They had done what many thought impossible. They had brought the relic back to life. Captain Daniel Brooks stood on the bridge, his eyes scanning the monitors that now displayed streams of data. The hum of the engines vibrated beneath his feet, a comforting reminder that the eclipse was no longer just a hunk of metal floating in space. But Daniel's moment of pride was short-lived. The alarms blaring throughout the ship reminded him that their work was far from over. "Ryan, what's the status on the core?" he asked, turning to the engineer who was busy at a nearby console. Ryan Cole wiped sweat from his brow as he worked. His fingers danced across the keyboard, rerouting power and stabilizing critical systems. "The core's holding steady," he replied, though his tone betrayed his concern. "But we're pushing it way past its limits. If we try to activate anything else right now, we risk blowing the whole thing." Lieutenant Laura Hayes was focused on the navigation systems, trying to bring the ship's sensors online. Her hands moved quickly, adjusting dials and flipping switches. "I've got partial readings," she announced. "The Council fleet is still out there, and they're getting closer. Some of their ships are moving into position. Looks like they're preparing for something." Communications specialist Emily Dawson was glued to her scanner, monitoring transmissions from the Council fleet. Her face grew tense as she listened to snippets of alien chatter. "This isn't good," she said finally, looking up at the others. "Kel's people are accusing us of violating interstellar treaties. They're saying the energy spike from the eclipse is a threat." Daniel frowned, his mind racing. He had expected skepticism, even ridicule, but not outright hostility. "They're just looking for an excuse to shut us down," he muttered. "We need to show them we're not a danger. We're proving a point." Laura nodded in agreement. "If we can demonstrate the eclipse's capabilities without escalating tensions, maybe we can turn this around. But we have to act fast." Ryan glanced up from his work, his expression grim. "There's another problem," he said. "Some of the upgrades I found earlier. They're locked behind security protocols. It'll take time to bypass them, and we don't have much of that." Emily stepped forward, her voice firm. "Then we focus on what we can do. Let's get the weapons systems online, at least enough to run a simulation. If we can show them what the eclipse is capable of, maybe they'll back off." Daniel considered the idea. It was risky, but it might be their best shot. "Do it," he said finally. "Ryan, prioritize the plasma cannons. Laura, see if you can link the targeting systems to the main console. Emily, keep monitoring the fleet and let me know if anything changes." As the team sprang into action, the tension aboard the Eclipse was palpable. Each member knew the stakes. Failure meant humiliation, not just for them, but for all of humanity. Success, however, could change everything. For too long, humans had been dismissed as inferior, their contributions overlooked or mocked. Now, they had a chance to prove otherwise. Ryan worked tirelessly, his fingers flying over the controls as he unlocked the dormant weapon systems. Laura coordinated with him, ensuring the targeting algorithms were accurate. Emily kept a close eye on the Council fleet, her scanner lighting up with every movement. Meanwhile, Daniel paced the bridge, his thoughts consumed by the weight of their mission. Finally, after what felt like hours, Ryan let out a triumphant shout. "Weapons are online," he exclaimed. "Plasma cannons ready for testing." Daniel allowed himself a small smile. "Let's give them a show they won't forget," he said, his voice steady. "The Eclipse might have been born in another era, But tonight, it would roar to life once more, and the galaxy would bear witness. The Eclipse's plasma cannons hummed with energy as the crew prepared for the weapons test. Captain Daniel Brooks stood at the center of the bridge, his hands gripping the edges of the main console. The tension in the air was thick, but there was also a sense of anticipation. This was their moment to prove that humanity wasn't just a relic of the past, it was a force to be reckoned with. Lieutenant Laura Hayes adjusted the targeting systems, her fingers moving swiftly across the controls. "Target drones are deployed," she announced, her voice calm but focused. The Council fleet had released a series of practice drones into the surrounding space, small and maneuverable objects designed to test precision and firepower. Normally, these drones were used for training exercises, but today they would serve as targets for the Eclipse's demonstration. Chief Engineer Ryan Cole monitored the power flow to the cannons, ensuring the systems didn't overload. Sweat dripped from his brow as he worked, but he didn't slow down. "Cannons are charged and ready," he said, glancing up at Daniel. "Just say the word." Communications specialist Emily Dawson kept her eyes glued to her scanner, watching the movements of the Council fleet. "They're still holding position," she reported, "but I'm picking up increased chatter. Looks like they're getting nervous." Daniel nodded, his jaw tightening. "Let's give them something to talk about," he said firmly. He turned to Laura. "Fire at will." Laura didn't hesitate. Her finger pressed the firing button, and the Eclipse shuddered slightly as the first plasma bolt shot out into space. The bright streak of energy illuminated the darkness, striking one of the drones with pinpoint accuracy. The target exploded in a burst of light, leaving nothing but debris in its wake. Cheers erupted on the bridge, but there was no time to celebrate. Laura quickly targeted another drone, and another, each shot landing with devastating precision. The Eclipse's cannons moved with fluid grace, guided by advanced algorithms that made the weapon system almost sentient. Within seconds, half the drones were obliterated, their remains drifting silently through the void. Emily's eyes widened as she watched the Council fleet's reaction. "They're scrambling," she said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Some of the ships are pulling back. Others are rerouting scanners, trying to figure out how we did it." Ryan let out a low whistle. "This is just the beginning," he muttered, grinning despite the gravity of the situation. "If we can get the cloaking system online, we'll really blow their minds." Daniel allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. The demonstration had gone better than he'd hoped. The Eclipse wasn't just functional. It was superior to anything the Council races had seen before. But his relief was short-lived. Ambassador Cale's face appeared on the main monitor, his expression a mix of shock and anger. "What is the meaning of this?" Cale demanded, his voice sharp. "You claim your technology is outdated, yet you wield weapons far beyond anything we've encountered." Daniel stepped forward, meeting Cale's glare without flinching. "We're not claiming anything," he replied evenly. "We're showing you. The Eclipse is proof that humanity's potential has always been underestimated." Cale's lips curled into a sneer. "Your arrogance will not go unpunished," he spat. "This display is an act of aggression against the Galactic Council." Before Daniel could respond, Emily interrupted. "Sir, we've got trouble," she said urgently. "Several ships are powering up their weapons. It looks like they're preparing to attack." The mood on the bridge shifted instantly. The crew exchanged worried glances, but Daniel remained composed. "Ryan, hit the cloaking system operational," he ordered. "Laura, prepare evasive maneuvers. Emily, keep tracking their movements." Ryan cursed under his breath as he rushed to activate the cloaking device. "It's going to take a minute," he warned. "And if I mess this up, we might fry the entire grid." "We don't have a minute," Laura snapped, her hands flying over the navigation controls. Outside the viewport, the Council fleet began to close in, their massive ships casting long shadows over the Eclipse. Daniel clenched his fists, his mind racing. They had come so far, defying expectations, and proving humanity's strength. Now, they faced their greatest challenge yet: survival. If they could make it through this, the galaxy would never look at them the same way again. "Hold on," Daniel said quietly, his voice steady. "We're not done yet." The Eclipse's bridge was a flurry of activity as the crew scrambled to prepare for the impending attack. Captain Daniel Brooks stood at the center, his eyes darting between the monitors and the viewport. The Council fleet loomed larger with each passing second, their ships bristling with weapons that glowed ominously in the darkness of space. "Ryan, how much longer on the cloaking system?" Daniel barked, his voice cutting through the tension. "Almost there," Ryan Cole shouted back, his fingers flying over the console. Beads of sweat rolled down his face as he worked furiously to bypass the final security protocols. The ancient systems groaned under the strain, sparks occasionally erupting from overloaded circuits. "If I push too hard, we risk frying everything," he added, gritting his teeth. Lieutenant Laura Hayes was focused on the navigation controls, her hand steady despite the chaos. "They're locking onto us," she warned, her voice tight. "We've got incoming fire in 10 seconds. Communications specialist Emily Dawson monitored the enemy fleet's movements, her scanner lighting up with alarming frequency. "3 ships are targeting our engines," she reported. "Another 2 are aiming for the core. They're not holding back." Daniel clenched his fists, his mind racing. The Eclipse had proven its capabilities, but now it faced its ultimate test: survival. "Laura, evasive maneuvers. Now," he ordered. Laura didn't hesitate. Her fingers danced across the controls, and the Eclipse surged forward, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy blasts. The ship shuddered violently as one shot grazed its hull, sending a shower of sparks across the bridge. Alarms blared, and smoke began to fill the air, but the crew pressed on. "Cloaking system is online," Ryan yelled triumphantly. With a final keystroke, the Eclipse shimmered and disappeared from view. To the Council fleet, it was as if the relic warship had vanished into thin air. For a moment, there was silence. The enemy ships hovered in confusion, their scanners frantically searching for any trace of the Eclipse. On the bridge, the crew exchanged relieved glances, but they knew the danger wasn't over. "Good work, everyone," Daniel said, his voice calm but firm. "But we're not out of this yet. Stay sharp." Emily adjusted her scanner, analyzing the Council fleet's next moves. "They're regrouping," she said. "Some are spreading out, trying to flush us out. Others are holding position, waiting for us to make a mistake." Laura nodded, keeping her hand steady on the controls. "We can't stay cloaked forever," she reminded them. "The system isn't stable. It'll only last a few minutes before it needs to recharge." Ryan wiped his brow, still staring at the console. "And if we try to use it again too soon, we might blow out the entire grid. We need another plan." Daniel thought quickly, his mind racing through options. They couldn't fight head-on, not against an entire fleet, but they also couldn't run. The Eclipse had already shown what it could do, and now it needed to strike decisively. "Emily, can you tap into their communications?" he asked. Emily hesitated, then nodded. "I can try. Their encryption is strong, but I think I can crack it." "Do it," Daniel said. "We need to know what they're planning, and maybe find a way to turn this around." As Emily worked, Ryan turned his attention to the Eclipse's remaining systems. "There's something else," he said slowly. "The AI integration files I found earlier, they're linked to the ship's defense protocols. If I can activate them, the Eclipse might be able to fight back on its own." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Can you do it without blowing us up?" Ryan grinned despite the gravity of the situation. "Probably, but no promises." Before anyone could respond, Emily let out a gasp. "I'm in," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "Their communications are wide open. Listen to this." She patched the audio feed into the main console. Voices filled the bridge, speaking in alien languages that were quickly translated by the Eclipse's systems. Ambassador Kell's voice was unmistakable, his tone laced with fury. "Find that ship and destroy it," he commanded. "It's a threat to the entire council." Daniel's jaw tightened. "So much for diplomacy," he muttered. He turned to the team. "Here's the plan. Ryan, activate the defense protocols. Laura, keep us mobile while Emily feeds us intel. If we play this right, we can hit them where it hurts and force them to back off." The crew nodded, determination burning in their eyes. The eclipse might have been built centuries ago, but tonight it would prove that humanity's spirit was timeless. As the council fleet closed in, the relic warship prepared to roar once more. The eclipse's cloaking system held steady as the council fleet searched blindly for the invisible warship. Captain Daniel Brooks stood at the center of the bridge, his sharp eyes scanning the monitors that displayed the enemy ship's movements. Though the crew had bought themselves some time, they all knew it wouldn't last long. The tension in the air was thick, but there was no room for hesitation now. "Defense protocols are online," Ryan Cole announced, his voice tinged with both relief and caution. He tapped a final sequence into the console, and the ship's AI, designated Echo, sprang to life. Its calm, synthesized voice filled the bridge. "Defense systems activated, awaiting commands." Daniel nodded, his mind racing. "Echo, analyze the enemy fleet. Identify their weakest points." "Processing," Echo replied. Moments later, a holographic display appeared on the main monitor, highlighting vulnerable areas on several ships. "Targeting data ready," Echo continued. "Plasma cannons primed for precision strikes." Lieutenant Laura Hayes adjusted the navigation controls, keeping the eclipse in constant motion to avoid detection. "They're spreading out," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "If we don't act soon, they'll corner us." Communications specialist Emily Dawson monitored the intercepted transmissions, piecing together the council's strategy. "Kel's ordering them to split into smaller groups," she reported. "He thinks we'll expose ourselves if we try to take them all on." Daniel smirked. "Let's prove him wrong." He turned to Ryan. "Can Echo handle the targeting while we focus on evasion?" Ryan nodded confidently. "Echo's faster than any of us. It'll make sure every shot counts." "Then let's do this," Daniel said firmly. "Laura, bring us around to flank their lead ship. Echo, lock onto their power core." The eclipse moved silently through space, its cloaking system masking its presence. As it positioned itself behind one of the larger council vessels, Echo's systems worked seamlessly, calculating trajectories and adjusting for movement. With a quiet hum, the plasma cannons fired, striking the target's power core with devastating accuracy. The enemy ship shuddered violently before erupting in a brilliant explosion, sending debris spiraling into space. The council fleet erupted into chaos. Ships scrambled to regroup, their captains shouting orders over open channels. Emily listened intently, her fingers flying across her scanner. "They're panicking," she said, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "Some of them are calling for reinforcements, but others are pulling back." Laura guided the eclipse through the confusion, weaving between enemy vessels with practiced skill. "We've got 2 more ships closing in," she warned. "Their weapons are locked onto our last known position. Cloaking system is destabilizing," Ryan added, his brow furrowed as he monitored the energy readings. "We've got maybe 30 seconds before we're visible again." Daniel didn't hesitate. "Echo, prioritize those 2 ships. Take out their weapon systems." "Affirmative," Echo replied. The eclipse's plasma cannons roared to life once more, firing rapid bursts that crippled the enemy ship's armaments. Without their weapons, the council vessels were forced to retreat, leaving large gaps in the fleet's formation. Ambassador Kel's voice crackled over the intercepted communications, his tone laced with fury. "This is unacceptable. They're using forbidden technology." His accusations were met with murmurs of agreement from other council members, but Emily noticed something else in the chatter, a growing sense of unease. "They're afraid," Emily said, her eyes narrowing. Some of them are questioning whether we stole this tech or developed it ourselves. Daniel allowed himself a small smile. Good. Let them wonder. If they think humanity's capable of building something like this, they'll think twice before underestimating us again. As the Eclipse's cloaking system flickered and failed, the warship reappeared in plain sight. The Council fleet hesitated, unsure how to respond. Their once coordinated attack had devolved into disarray, and the Eclipse stood unscathed at the center of the chaos. Ryan let out a low whistle. Guess we showed them what this relic can do. Daniel nodded, his expression grim but determined. This isn't over yet. But tonight, we reminded them that humanity doesn't back down, not even against impossible odds. The Eclipse might have been born in another era, but its roar had echoed across the stars, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Eclipse floated silently in the void of space, its battered hull glowing faintly under the light of Saturn's rings. The Council fleet had pulled back, their ships scattered and disorganized after the Eclipse's devastating counterattack. For now, the immediate threat was over, but Captain Daniel Brooks knew this was only a temporary reprieve. The battle might have been won, but the war for humanity's reputation and survival was far from finished. Lieutenant Laura Hayes sat at the navigation console, her fingers hovering over the controls as she monitored the movements of the retreating ships. They're regrouping near the flagship, she reported, her voice calm but edged with caution. Looks like they're calling an emergency session. Communications specialist Emily Dawson adjusted her scanner, intercepting fragments of frantic discussions among the council members. Kel's pushing for retaliation, she said, her brow furrowed. He's accusing us of using stolen technology and demanding sanctions against Earth. Daniel clenched his jaw, his frustration simmering just below the surface. Let him accuse all he wants, he muttered. We didn't steal anything. Every system on this ship was built by humans. Decades ago, sure, but still ours. Chief Engineer Ryan Cole leaned against a nearby console, wiping grease-streaked hands on his uniform. Doesn't matter what we know, he said grimly. What matters is what they believe. If they think we got help, or worse, that we're hiding something, they'll use it as an excuse to come after us again. Emily nodded, her expression thoughtful. Some of them already suspect that. I've picked up whispers about secret alliances or classified projects. They're trying to figure out how we did this, and who helped us. Laura glanced at Daniel, her green eyes sharp and determined. Then we need to prove them wrong. Not just here, but in front of the entire council. Show them that everything we've done came from us, and only us. Daniel straightened, his mind racing. She was right. This wasn't just about defending themselves anymore. It was about changing the narrative. Humanity had spent years being dismissed as inferior, their contributions overlooked or mocked. Now, they had a chance to rewrite that story, to show the galaxy that they were equals, not subordinates. Echo, Daniel said, turning to the ship's eye. Pull up every file related to the Eclipse's upgrades. We need proof that this tech came from Earth. Processing, Echo replied. Moments later, holographic displays filled the bridge, showing schematics, research notes, and test data, all marked with Earth's insignia. The files were old, dating back centuries, but they were undeniable evidence of humanity's ingenuity. Ryan whistled softly. This is gold, he said. If we present this to the council, they won't have any choice but to admit we did this on our own. Emily crossed her arms, her gaze fixed on the displays. It's risky, though. Sharing this info means exposing some of our most advanced tech. What if they try to take it or copy it? Daniel hesitated, weighing the risks. He knew Emily was right. It wasn't just about pride anymore. If humanity revealed too much, they could become targets for exploitation. But keeping silent meant letting the council dismiss their achievements once again. We don't share everything, he decided finally. Just enough to prove our point. Let them see the origins of the Eclipse's systems, but leave out the specifics. That way, They know it's ours without giving them a blueprint. Laura nodded in agreement. And while we're at it, we remind them why they should respect us, not just fear us. As the crew worked together to compile the evidence, tensions aboard the Council flagship continued to rise. Ambassador Kale paced angrily across the assembly chamber, his blue skin shimmering under the dim lights. "This cannot stand," he declared, slamming a fist onto the table. "If we allow humanity to flaunt such power unchecked, they will destabilize the entire coalition." Other ambassadors exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to support Cal's aggression or question his motives. Some whispered about the implications of humanity's sudden display of strength, while others argued that attacking Earth would only provoke further conflict. Back aboard the Eclipse, Daniel watched the Council's emergency session through intercepted feeds. His expression hardened as he listened to Cal's accusations. "They're scared," he said quietly. "Scared of what we can do, and scared of what it means for them." Emily looked up from her scanner, her lips curling into a faint smile. "Good. Let them be scared. As long as they remember one thing, we're not relics. We're pioneers." The Eclipse might have been born in another era, but tonight it had proven that humanity's spirit burned brighter than ever, and when the Council reconvened, they would find themselves facing not just a relic, but a reckoning. The Council chamber aboard the Zorathian flagship was a tense and chaotic scene. Ambassadors from various alien species gathered around a large, circular table, their voices rising in heated arguments. Ambassador Kale stood at the center, his blue skin glowing faintly under the dim lights as he railed against humanity. "This is an act of defiance," he shouted, pointing to holographic images of the Eclipse displayed above the table. "Their so-called relic is a weapon of mass destruction, and they refuse to explain its origins." Other ambassadors chimed in, some siding with Kale while others voiced doubts. A slender, insect-like representative named Varn spoke up, her voice calm but firm. "We cannot ignore the evidence," she said, gesturing to intercepted data showing Earth's insignia on the Eclipse's schematics. "The technology may be advanced, but it is undeniably human-made." Kale turned on her sharply. "Evidence can be forged," he snapped. "How do we know they did not steal these designs, or worse, receive assistance from rogue factions within our own ranks?" The debate raged on, dividing the Council into factions. Some species saw humanity's actions as a threat that needed to be contained, while others viewed them as a wake-up call, a reminder that underestimating any civilization could have dire consequences. Meanwhile, aboard the Eclipse, Captain Daniel Brooks and his crew prepared for the next phase of their mission. They had compiled enough evidence to prove the ship's origins, but presenting it to the Council would require careful timing and strategy. "We need to strike while tensions are high," Daniel said, pacing the bridge. "If we wait too long, Kale will twist their minds against us." Lieutenant Laura Hayes nodded, studying the holographic displays of the Council fleet. "They're still reeling from what we did out there," she said. "But if we don't act soon, they'll regroup and come after us again." Chief Engineer Ryan Cole adjusted the final settings on the communication array, ensuring the feed to the Council chamber would be crystal clear. "Ready when you are," he said, wiping his hands on a rag. "Just say the word, and we'll broadcast everything straight to their screens." Communications specialist Emily Dawson monitored the Council's internal communications, listening closely to shifts in tone and alliances. "Cal's losing ground," she reported. "Some of the ambassadors are starting to question his motives. If we play this right, we can turn the tide." Daniel took a deep breath, his mind racing through the possibilities. This wasn't just about clearing humanity's name. It was about earning respect. For years, humans had been dismissed as newcomers, their contributions overlooked or mocked. Now they had a chance to change that narrative forever. "Echo," Daniel said, addressing the ship's eye. "Patch me through to the Council chamber. It's time we had a word with them." "Establishing connection," Echo replied. Moments later, Daniel's face appeared on the massive display screen in the council chamber, silencing the arguing ambassadors. His expression was calm but resolute, his voice steady as he addressed the room. "Ambassadors," he began, "I understand your concerns, but before you make accusations, let me show you the truth." With a nod to Ryan, the Eclipse's evidence files were transmitted directly to the Council's systems. Schematics, research notes, and test data filled the screens, all bearing Earth's insignia. For a moment, there was silence as the ambassadors absorbed the information. Then murmurs erupted throughout the chamber. Varn leaned forward, her antennae twitching with interest. "Fascinating," she said softly. "This proves beyond doubt that humanity developed this technology independently." Kale glared at the screen, his frustration boiling over. "Even if this is true," he spat, "it does not excuse their actions. They attacked Council ships without provocation." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "We acted in self-defense," he countered. "Your fleet fired first, Ambassador. We simply defended ourselves and proved that humanity will not be bullied." The room erupted into fresh arguments, but the tide had shifted. More ambassadors began speaking in favor of humanity, questioning Cal's aggressive stance. As the debate continued, one thing became clear: the galaxy's perception of humanity was changing. Back aboard the Eclipse, Laura watched the Council's reaction with quiet satisfaction. "Looks like they're finally listening," she said. Daniel allowed himself a small smile. "For now, that's enough. But this isn't the end. It's just the beginning." The Eclipse might have roared to life, but its journey was far from over. The council chamber was alive with tension as humanity's representatives stood firm against the accusations hurled by Ambassador Kale and his allies. Captain Daniel Brooks watched the proceedings from the Eclipse's bridge, his face reflected on the massive screen that dominated the room. Though physically absent, his presence loomed large over the assembly. The evidence they had presented, files detailing the development of the Eclipse's technology, was undeniable proof of humanity's ingenuity. Ambassador Kale paced furiously, his blue skin shimmering under the dim lights. "This changes nothing," he declared, slamming a fist onto the table. "Their actions violated interstellar law. They must be held accountable." A murmur rippled through the chamber, but it wasn't the unified voice of agreement Cal had hoped for. Many ambassadors exchanged skeptical glances, their expressions suggesting doubt about his claims. Varn, the insect-like representative, rose to her feet once more. "Ambassador Kale raises valid concerns," she admitted, her tone measured. "However, we cannot ignore the fact that humanity acted in self-defense after an unprovoked attack on their vessel." Cal's eyes narrowed, his frustration mounting. "Self-defense. Their ship is a relic, a weapon hidden away for centuries. How can we trust them?" Before Cal could continue, another ambassador, a tall reptilian figure named Zoran, interrupted. "Perhaps the real question is why you ordered your fleet to fire first," he said coolly. "Your actions were reckless and have put us all at risk." The accusation sent shockwaves through the room. Whispers erupted as delegates turned to one another, discussing the implications of Zoran's statement. Emily Dawson, monitoring the transmissions aboard the Eclipse, leaned back in her chair with a satisfied grin. "Looks like Cal's losing support," she said. "Even his own people are starting to question him." Chief Engineer Ryan Cole nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "Good. Let them fight amongst themselves while we keep the pressure on." Lieutenant Laura Hayes studied the holographic displays showing the Council fleet's movements. "They're still out there," she reminded everyone. "Just because some ambassadors are backing off doesn't mean Kel won't try something desperate." Daniel agreed. "We stay ready," he said firmly. "If Kale thinks he can regain control by escalating this conflict, we need to be prepared." As the debate continued, humanity's case grew stronger. Several ambassadors spoke up in favor of granting Earth full sovereignty within the Council, arguing that the Eclipse's capabilities prove humanity's potential as equals rather than subordinates. Others called for an investigation into Cal's actions, questioning whether his aggression had been driven by personal ambition rather than the Council's best interests. Finally, the chamber fell silent as the Council chair, an ancient crystalline being known as Elder Silas, took the floor. His voice resonated like a deep hum, commanding attention. "Enough," he intoned, raising a shimmering hand. "The facts are clear. Humanity acted in defense of their property and lives. Furthermore, the evidence confirms that the eclipse and its technology is of human origin." He paused, allowing his words to sink in before continuing. "Ambassador Kale, your conduct during this incident has brought shame upon the Council. Your unauthorized attack on a sovereign vessel will not go unpunished. You are hereby stripped of your ambassadorial status, and sanctions will be imposed on your people until reparations are made." Cal's face twisted in rage, but he said nothing, knowing any further protest would only worsen his position. As he stormed out of the chamber, the remaining ambassadors began drafting resolutions to formally recognize humanity's contributions and ensure such conflicts wouldn't happen again. Back aboard the Eclipse, the crew watched the outcome unfold with quiet pride. "We did it," Laura said softly, breaking the silence. "They finally see us as equals." Daniel nodded, though his expression remained thoughtful. "This is just the start," he replied. "The galaxy knows what we're capable of now, but proving ourselves won't stop here. We've earned respect, but earning trust takes time." Ryan grinned, slapping his toolkit against his palm. "Well, if anyone gives us trouble, we've got a warship ready to remind them who we are." Emily chuckled, shaking her head. "One battle at a time, Ryan." The Eclipse floated silently in space, its battered hull a testament to resilience and determination. Humanity had faced ridicule, hostility, and doubt. But tonight, they had risen above it all. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, the crew knew their journey was far from over. The Eclipse returned to Earth as a symbol of hope and defiance, its once-forgotten hull now gleaming under the light of the sun. News of its triumph spread across the planet, sparking celebrations in cities and colonies alike. Humanity had faced the galaxy's skepticism and emerged victorious, proving that they were not relics of the past, but pioneers of the future. Captain Daniel Brooks and his crew became legends almost overnight, their names spoken with pride by millions. As the ship docked at a sprawling orbital station above Earth, crowds gathered to catch a glimpse of the warship that had defied the odds. Reporters clamored for interviews, historians sought details of the mission, and engineers studied the Eclipse's systems, eager to learn from its secrets. Yet for Daniel and his team, the moment was bittersweet. They had accomplished what many thought impossible, but they knew the road ahead would be just as challenging, if not more so. Lieutenant Laura Hayes stood on the observation deck of the station, gazing out at the stars. "It feels strange," she admitted, her voice soft. "We've proven ourselves to the galaxy, but I can't shake the feeling that this is only the beginning." Chief Engineer Ryan Cole joined her, leaning against the railing. "Beginning or not, we showed them what we're made of," he said with a grin. "And if anyone tries to push us around again, we've got a whole fleet waiting to follow in the Eclipse's footsteps." Communications specialist Emily Dawson nodded, flipping through data on her tablet. "The Council's already talking about new alliances, with humans leading the charge. Some species are even asking for our help with tech upgrades." She paused, her expression thoughtful. "It's a lot of responsibility." Daniel approached, his hands clasped behind his back. "Responsibility comes with respect," he said firmly. "For years, we've been underestimated, dismissed as newcomers who didn't belong. Now they see us differently, not because we begged for recognition, but because we earned it." He turned to face his crew, his expression serious yet proud. "But earning respect isn't enough. We have to keep pushing forward. The Eclipse reminded the galaxy of what humanity can do, but it's up to us to show them where we're going next." The crew exchanged glances, each silently acknowledging